the Historic Preservation Board for January 5th to 2021. Okay, first item up would be roll call. Is Jason online?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So roll call vote. Michael Hill.
Here.
Elizabeth Hawk indicated that she would not be attending.
I am
person,
actually,
but you
I'm
are
here, but I'm virtual.
All right, thank you. Nicole Nesberg,
Here.
Elizabeth Hausauer,
Here.
Danielle Massey, and Kyra Lucas just indicated she would not be attending. Michelle Hazen,
I'm here. You guys just updated my link.
okay, so that was Danielle.
Yep.
Michelle Hazen,
Here.
Bill Warner,
Here.
Jay Reeves.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a in-person quorum and an overall quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Next item up would be adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chair, who seconded?
Michael Hill.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Next item up would be the announcement, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Section 30-3.5 of the Land Development Code establishes the Historic Preservation Board, including its composition and duties and authority. The Historic Preservation Board procedures are set forth in Section 30-4.28G of the Land Development Code. Appeals of Historic Preservation Board decisions are to the hearing officer and must be filed within 30 calendar days of the effective date of the board decision at issue. The appeal procedure is specified in Section 30-3.58C of the Land Development Code.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. All right, that brings us to old business. Well, wait a minute, excuse me. Are there any minutes to be approved, Mr. Simmons?
There were, although in my copy, I don't see a link to them.
Okay.
So I guess that would mean we would move to old business.
Yep.
And Mr. Chair, this is Adam Sussler for public comment. Just as a matter of course, as you reach the end of one agenda item and start a new one or a vote, if you could just check in with me to let me know that you're taking public comment if there is. Right now we have nobody on the lines, but just check in every once in a while.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Under old business, petition HP-20-101, Keith Perry and Louis D. Rodriguez, Esquire owners. Certificate of appropriateness to construct an addition and replace windows on the Masonic Lodge number 41, located at 215 North Main Street. This building is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Now, in your backup, there's the original staff report, and there's also a letter that was provided by the applicants, as well as a document explaining the window situation. Let me see. And if you hold on a second, I will. I don't know if you have access to that, to those links. I'm going to share my screen to open up the window sash replacement document. Can you see that?
Yeah, go to where it says window, click on Masonic Lodge, GNV-SPAN.
Yeah, we have access, Jason.
Oh, yeah,
If you
we
click
do.
on Masonic Lodge and then keep going up, third one down. There you go. Click on that, and then it's the window, the very bottom one. Yes, for this
Mr. Chair, can you see this or?
and that's all the way down.
All we see is your computer screen with the selections. We don't see the letter, but we're finding it on our backup.
I don't know, it says, please move this window away from the shared application. I don't know. This is my.
It's this one?
No, it's Masonic Lodge. I mean, it's this that I want to show.
This one?
Yeah. Oh, be careful. Okay, thank you. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, now you have this in your backup. I don't know if anyone's there from the applicants, but this
Yes.
was the letter basically explaining the situation about the window sash replacement on the building.
Right.
And there's also some pictures of, I guess they had brought in a few samples of the windows that they were proposing, and they put them in, and so we have some pictures showing the new window sash replacement. This is on the first floor. And then we have a picture showing what the existing windows look like. This is also on the first floor. Let me see if I can reduce that down some. Then you've got showing one of the new windows on the second floor with the arched top, and that's next to an existing window. And as you see, the existing windows are 1/1, and I guess the issue is the compatibility to the building and the architecture of the gridded pattern that's shown for the new windows. And here's a close-up of the exterior. And this is a shot of the interior. These are of the new windows. And just some details of the sash for the first floor on the left and the sash for the upper floor on the right. And I guess this is a shot of the hippodrome. And I think they're indicating that the hippodrome has windows that are of a gridded pattern. And then there's a letter from Kevin Perry, who's an architect, talking about the Italianate style. And I guess in general that they feel that the windows that they have chosen are appropriate for the building. And there's also a letter that's in your backup from the co-owners, explaining the situation from their point of view. I have not heard from the applicants today.
They are here.
Okay, well, I'm done with my presentation. I
Okay.
believe they can explain better what they're trying to indicate to the board.
Okay. Okay, just so I'm clear, Mr. Simmons, at this point in the situation, the windows are already in. Why are we really reviewing this?
Are all of the windows in? I thought they had,
They are.
that I did not know, so.
Kind of affects the outcome one way or the other.
Well, there, well.
All right,
And I guess there's really nothing to,
no, there's no point in voting at this point, in my opinion. I think the board's concern is, first, Richard, would you or Mr. Diaz like to say anything to the board?
What could we say? I think Richard Wagner, Joiner Construction, I want to thank the board for approving the addition. And I'm not doing the windows, the owner's doing the windows, but I was just helping him out. But the owner has gone to great lengths to make this building come back to its original intent. I mean, he put that Ludovici tile roof on there. He didn't have to do that, but he did that.
We understand.
He put all copper flashings and gutters. He didn't have to do that. And all the tin, he took all that brick, replaced all the brick. He spent 2 months there taking all this brick out and then painting it. So he's done a marvelous job. And he's, you know, this window was a hang up here and on. And
Yeah.
looking at it, you know, granted, it's not the 1/1, but I think, you know, it matches the time period, the Hippodrome, maybe not the architecture, but so we were still trying to be good stewards with the board because we might need to go back and ask for other things and all, you know,
Sure.
or just consultation. And so the thing about over that storm that happened over the window, holidays there, 4 of the windows blew out that were there. He had already bought these windows for $105,000, so they're sitting there in the thing, rather than hire a firm to come out there and put them, you know, plywood over the holes. He made the choice to start installing the windows and all, so.
Okay.
Masonic Gainesville, Keith Perry and I are currently co-owners of the building. And just to give everybody, first of all, I want to thank you guys for the approval of the addition that we have behind the building. But I also just wanted to explain, you know, a part of it's really something that I explained in the letter that I wrote to you all, and I encourage you all to read it and drive by the lodge this evening on your ways home, because I really think you'll find that they're beautiful. But more specifically, it's actually pretty simple to explain. The windows that were installed in 1908 by the masons who had this lodge at the time, it really was a very state-of-the-art feature to have windows that could have such large panes. Up to that point in time, windows were created with grids because glass could only be made in such a small, you know, in such small panes. So that's why having such a large window was actually kind of a new state-of-the-art technology that was happening in 1908, and they decided to go, you know, they made a decision to go against that original Italian Renaissance architecture that the rest of this building was built in, and chose to deviate with the window sashes from there. And that's another thing. Keith and I only replaced the window sash, and that's because we wanted the frame, we wanted that to remain, because again, we're only trying to bring this building back to its, you know, true architectural glory. We only want to preserve it, and we only want it to last another 100 years. And that's really all. Thank you guys very much. Really appreciate you all.
Okay. Yeah, having looked at the windows in person, I can attest to the fact that the sashes were in horrible condition, and something had to be done. I think the board, just so you guys understand what our concerns have been, is trying to make sure this building followed the Secretary of the Interior standards, which is what we're bound by. And, you know, that's where the board has conflict and question. At this point, they're in. So I don't know that there's anything for us to do other than say carry on and good luck. I mean, the other issue is technically the building is not on the local landmark yet either. So there we have it. Does any other board member want to make comment? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yes.
I just want to point out that, and I just found this out yesterday, the nomination of the building for the local register of historic places is on the city commission agenda for this Thursday
Okay.
for the evening meeting.
Okay. All right, good. Thanks. Okay, Mr. Simmons, on to the next item.
All right. Then the next item is under old business, petition HP-17-39, Martin Valla, applicant for Stefan Valla, owner, certificate of appropriateness for rehabilitation of a structure at 609 Northeast Sixth Street. The property is located within the Northeast Residential Historic District. And just a moment. Okay, can you see that those pictures? Okay. In your backup is a link to the original staff report. And this is the information that was recently provided by the applicants that is meant to provide more information for the board to consider. You see the photo of the original structure with the lap siding and the metal roof at the top. There's the statement indicating that the materials will visibly match with the neighborhood and historic design of the original home. I've got some pictures of some neighboring homes. There's indication that the front porch will be rebuilt with reclaimed brick piers and stairs and painted wood skirting, post and newel, and a balustrade. The metal standing seam roof has been installed. They also want to use painted wood grain lap siding and reclaimed brick stairs, piers, and walkway. And then here are, I guess, the updated elevations showing the proposed front elevation on the left and the proposed elevation, side elevation on the right. And you see that down here, it's a photo of the current state of the house at this time. And then a conceptual rendering here on the left. I believe the applicants are on the line, and we'll hopefully be able to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Okay, board questions or comments at this point? Right off the bat, my question would be, huh? Yeah,
There's a secondary document in our files,
there is, okay, yeah.
but it doesn't have any more detail of the current plan than that. What is it? It says it's requesting a 3.5 setback into the public utilities easement? No, that's the old, we're looking at old. This has been going on since 2017, so that's the old. Yeah, I thought that was the old thing.
It is, yeah.
So the original plans that were approved are no longer even on the table, now it's this. Okay, and this is it. All this other stuff is.
Yeah.
Well, my question is, what is the material it's being clad with? Because if it has wood grain and it's lap siding, that doesn't tell me what is the material.
I think it says, it should be novelty siding because that's what's on every other
Now,
house.
Mr. Simmons, can you tell me that?
I can only tell you what's on the renderings that the applicants provided.
Right. Are they on the phone where we can speak with them?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, good. No, I was just trying to find out what type of siding it has on it.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you to the board for hearing us. My father's here on the line as well, and he was with you in the last meeting, so I wanted to let him jump in where with anything referring to what you discussed previously, but I understand the question about the lap siding, and as the original staff report mentions, and where we're going with it now is that we were going to choose again the novelty lap siding in the same style that was on the original,
Okay. Well,
or at least as close as possible. The original lap siding, as you can't see from the photo probably because it's too far away, but it was a wavy bottom, but we'll use a regular
okay.
planed.
Okay, so it is a novelty siding. That's what I wanted to find out.
He knows what novelty siding is. He just said we're gonna use plain, not wavy.
Well, yeah, novelty siding is the kind that has a little kerf in it, like you see throughout the neighborhood. And it's, well, no. And just so that we're on the same page, you're talking about wood novelty siding, correct?
With wood grain, yes, sir.
No, wood material is what I'm asking.
So our plan was to use a more robust lap siding that visually from the street will remain consistent with the original home.
Are you saying that the material will be wood or the material will be cementatious material with a wood?
Grain, we're asking for you to clarify what the actual material is.
So the current, I mean, we haven't chosen the product yet because we're in the middle of this. So the idea was to find a product that was longer lasting than pine or wood material, to use another product that had been recommended from our previous construction contractor.
Well, the problem is, if you will take a read of the guidelines, that on historic buildings, you're supposed to go with the original material on the building whenever you're doing repair replacement, which is kind of what's happened here. We're generally not given the option of going with composite materials or new or contemporary materials on a historic house. That's where I'm going.
I understand. I wanted to highlight the fact that in the original staff report, it was made to, through those, the standards for rehabilitation and for the report that Ms. Larkin had wrote up, we would continue with the style of the original home. And as you can see, or again, you can't see it, I'm sorry, it was actually some sort of a hardy board or cementatious or some cement board style. So that's actually why we want to go back to, I mean, as you can see, we're trying to stick with the metal roof instead of the shingle roof, and the siding of the original home
All right.
was a hardy board product, but the style of it, the design of it will be more in line with the neighboring homes, and it will have the wood grain, so that from the sidewalk it would not be any different. And that was sort of what we had discussed in one of the previous meetings with you all a couple of years ago, was the perspective of
All right.
from the street.
What you're referring to is there was an asbestos siding over the original wood novelty siding. And what I'm referring to is the way the guidelines read, it's talking about the original siding on the building, not the overcladding on it. Because even when we do additions to historic structures that are of the period where they would have wood novelty or some other wood type of siding, we match with the additions. We're not allowed to do hardy board just on the addition, even if it does simulate the appearance, is where I'm going. And obviously, hardy board does not simulate novelty at all. The only thing it simulates is shiplap, and it's much thinner. Does not have a historic profile to it. So if that is what you're maintaining, that you want to go with a new contemporary material, I think number one, we probably need to go back and look at the records of your last approval and make sure that is in fact, because that does not sound correct to me, nor does it sound like Cleary would have done that. And I would think at this point, that's a pretty major issue as far as the exterior appearance of this house. Because where you're going with this, is it going to look like a brand new house, which is what the historic board's been trying to avoid since the very beginning with this house. So we want it to look like a historic structure because essentially it is, but if you reclad, rechange the whole thing, then pretty soon it's not anymore. And the historic tax credits come into question at that point, and you know, I think it's something that we need to talk about and we need to clarify. Okay.
I understand. If I could add that, you know, there's a couple of things that I'd like to point out and for your consideration. One being that this project has taken a long time as I'm, you know, basically a freelance artist trying to fund this on my own, and the novelty siding is something like double the price, obviously, and from my perspective as an artist and a designer, I understand you want to. We're trying to keep the aesthetic of the historic neighborhood as such, but it's you know, if we were supposed to make it look like an old house, does that mean I'd need to add mold and bent corners and stuff like that? I mean, we're rehabilitating this, so I feel like the idea is to, you know, make it last another 100 years with materials that we have today versus, and I'm not trying to be snarky about this at all, but you know, obviously now the corners are square and the lines are plumb, so we're going in the direction of what is a rebuild for a property that we have saved over 25% of the original structure with our previous contractors, who also, you know, we've gone way past the original budget that came up in doing things like standing seam roof that were, again, visually, you know, accurate from the perspective of passersby in the house. I don't, you know, and in terms of tax credits, I'm not trying to apply for those at this point. I don't know if that will be possible in any case because of the you know, the new building elements that we've added on the back end anyways. So I would just ask that, you know, you take those things into consideration. We will be reclaiming, or we have reclaimed original brick and other original wood beams that we'll be using in the front porch, where we're going to be reconstructing a porch that's more in line with the other houses that are on the block. And so I truly believe that from the street, you won't, you know, as a new painted house, you won't be able to tell that it's, you know, that it's not a actual wood material under the paint. I mean, you can't even see the lathe that kept inside the house. So I'm hoping that this on the exterior part would be something that you would be agreeable to. I thank you for listening.
We don't have information before. We're not informed.
Okay.
We can only continue or deny.
I think we need to go back and clarify on the previous approval, because being someone that was involved in that way back when, I don't recall us approving that the siding was to be completely replaced in the first place. And,
Chimneys are gone.
well, and there's been other issues along the way, so I think we need to go back and clarify it and then revisit it at the next meeting, once we're informed, and possibly even talk to Clary about what she approved and what she didn't approve. Or the board approved, but just clarify it, because, you know, looking from this point, trying to look back several years ago, it looks like two entirely different projects at this point. And I don't feel comfortable voting
I
on
would
it.
also comment that the scale of the posts doesn't seem. I would also like to comment that the scale of the posts, the proportions of the posts on the new porch don't feel
Well,
accurate. There's some other things that I would mention in addition to the siding issue.
okay. That-
Could I ask who's speaking there? I didn't catch if that was someone.
Yes, one of the board members was speaking about the porch, front porch posts. If there was a way to zoom in, or can we get it, is it on our screens too?
Yeah, the
I've
plus
already
sign
looked at
there.
the home, so-
Okay, see, because the problem is.
Is
we
that
need
better or more?
A little more if you could, Jason, on the drawings, not what the original was, because the originals were gone. They were a completely different type of posts anyway. On the drawings above, if you can. Yes. That's what we need to be looking at.
But you know, the other houses on the street, the posts are about 10 inches, 10 by 10.
I mean, this is a totally uninformed approach to adaptive preservation.
Sorry?
So this is, from the day one, this has been a pretty uninformed approach to adaptive preservation. The siding of interval appears to be something like 8 inches there or more, which would totally out of character with anything in the whole area.
Yeah.
We don't have sufficient information before us to make a decision.
If we could scroll up, Jason, to look at the original, Mr. Simmons, of the original photo, you can see how wide the boards are there. I think you would say the siding.
Asbestos.
That was probably the asbestos we're talking about in the old photo, isn't it?
Correct.
There's
Yeah, you're not
asbestos.
supposed to be matching that, because that wasn't an original material to that building.
There's another photo that shows underneath the asbestos in the original siding, which was a lot smaller and consistent with the homes on the street. If you
It's a
scroll down.
novelty.
So we could definitely match the siding. I mean, I'm not an actual architect, so the drawings were not, are possibly not exactly reflective of the inch siding. We would match them with the neighboring houses
Yes, yes, that's what we're trying to
for
get to.
scale.
Yes.
And the posts, for sure, if the posts, if you ask that we make the posts to the width of, for example, the two top examples of the neighboring homes, happy to, we want to align with that as well. So that was the goal there. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a good example in the neighboring houses that were built at about the same time. So that's what I would be going for, is trying to match the width of those columns.
Absolutely.
Because you know that's appropriate then.
I think that I think the concern is that the deviation from the original plan that was approved in 2017 has been so extreme. And we feel like we're fishing to get the information. And I have a concern that we say yes to something, and the next thing you know, it's something different is actually on the house.
Right.
And then it's too late. So I think that's why we're being so specific about
Right.
wanting some very firm detail on things, so
Yeah.
we don't have the same situation.
Either detail in drawing or detail in verbiage that specifically describes like a 5 or 6 inch lap novelty type siding or shiplap or whatever it is.
Novelty wood
Because we're
siding.
voting on that, and the problem is, you could, we could give our approval of what we think we're getting, but what we actually get might not be that at all. And, that's what we as a board try to prevent, to make sure we're communicating with each other and we all agree on what it is we're doing. And that's where we're having trouble here, because the older drawings don't really match what you're doing now. And at this point, we don't have a lot of information to go on, and that's what we're trying to get out, specifics. And like,
I see.
what is the material, what's the trim, and, but I would say using your neighboring houses as a guide is probably the best thing you can do at this point.
I understand. I want to push back on the characterization that we've extremely changed from a deviation from the original plan, because I don't believe that's actually true. If you look at the elevation drawings, I literally took the ones that we used for the application before and just added line work to them in order to represent the lap siding and the the other things. So
Well, there
it's
have
hard
been
for-
changes, and, I wouldn't say extreme, but, there have been
Yeah,
changes.
they were extreme. They were extreme.
Well, there are things that are important to the board that have changed on them, I'll say that. Okay, so if we could get some more detail out of you, I will go back and talk to staff about the original siding and make sure we have clarification on that. If you think you were approved for that, we need to clarify that.
Sure
I do
thing.
not. I was gonna say, I
Sorry.
don't believe the board voted for that, because we never do, unless it's a complete rebuild from the ground up.
So could I read to you the sentence from the report that or the paragraph?
Okay. Yes, please.
So thank you. The first page for this HB 1739 recommendation, I'll skip to the important part, which is what you want to hear, is there's a bullet points under the recommendation that, let me see where I was just looking at it. So that documentation will be provided if siding style other than lap siding is found on the house during demolition, that the gable ends of the house be lap siding to match the existing unless documentation proved otherwise, that the projecting bays be lap siding to match the house, or possibly a board and batten siding to differentiate the new from existing, and then it continues on. But those are the first three out of four bullet points. So to my reading, the style and that it's lap siding, it doesn't indicate a specific wood material there. And so, but I want to match, I will match visually with the lap siding that is on the neighborhood walls. Again, I hope you'll consider that, my predicament here, that this project is becoming way bigger than I originally intended. I want it to match the neighborhood, and we want to, as we discussed previously, we're trying to make it a home that will last another 100 years, with having gone through a global pandemic where I haven't had a lot of work in the last year. So I'm trying to figure out ways to make this work for everyone while still appeasing the board.
Now, actually, we're just a little bit below that. You probably know that schools all across the district, all across Florida, and all across.
You guys take notes, let me know.
I can't hear what,
Who's talking?
I think it was just some interference.
okay, but to
Yeah.
continue on with that petition, the petition description did describe the house has asbestos siding covering wood lap siding. I mean, the original petition does lay out what it is. So that was previous to those bullet points that you brought up. Did we
Isn't
lose
it?
them?
The bullet points.
No, I'm still here, if you can hear me.
I would like to make a comment.
Yes, Daniel?
If you scroll down on the pictures, there's actually a picture of the asbestos siding that's been torn up, and you can actually see the wood siding, which proves that it is exactly as the same as all the other homes, and it is wood, as we would expect.
Yeah.
And there's, there's a picture of it, so there's no question that the house is consistent with the other houses on the street, and that wood lap siding is what's appropriate for this house.
The point would be that we do not have adequate information before us to provide either approval or denial, so I would move to continue.
I second that.
Okay. All right, is there any public comment before we move forward?
Can I say something?
Waiting to hear back if there's public
in response to that question, we don't have any electronic public comment. I don't know if anybody is in the room at this point that would make comment physically.
Okay, thank you. All right, Michelle?
So I hear whatever, I'm trying to sort of hear what everyone's saying. I mean, this to me was always sort of an excessive project. I mean, I was the listing agent when this house sold, and I was like, wow, this is going to be a major change to this home and an expensive one. So one, just, I just hate to see anyone get into this scale of a renovation and taking all of that off, because, it's basically a rebuild of the home. I mean, certainly there were a lot of components of the home that probably could have been saved. It just has been taken to a much bigger project. I think, looking at what was existing there, I mean, even on the previous plans, which I think we can see, as far as the porch, going back to that, it was just a very different porch. I mean, not only did we have more width, but I think even in the drawings, the original drawings from Atlantic, they had more of a base, and then it went up into the pillar that was wood. So this sort of more narrow form is different. I mean, I hate to see a project stalled much longer, because I know that we are waiting, and while we don't have all of the information, I mean, a lot of what's done has been done. I mean, the back of this house is gone, the roof is on, the windows are in, when I'm hearing that we don't have enough information, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, we need this to be wood siding, preferably the novelty siding that was original to the home. We need the porch to be different. I mean, what other information as a board do we really need to see? I mean, windows, doors, all of those are installed, the roof is on. I guess as a board, I'm just trying to understand why we're holding this project up any further, because I know it's probably just time to get this thing moved along. It's been sitting for a long time, and I know there's a loss just by it sitting there. So I guess my question is, what else do we need this owner to tell us at this point in time that we're going to need to approve?
Well, I think it goes back to the question of wanting it in writing so that there's no question as to what we're approving, so there are no additional changes like we had from the original 2017 drawings.
Well,
you know what I mean? I mean, I don't feel comfortable saying I approve this as long as it's wood siding and the porch is changed. That's too vague.
So what maybe we can be more specific. So looking at, so when I'm looking at what we see, the updated plans that have been provided in our packet, no, not seeing much here. Am I just seeing photos? Is that all I'm seeing?
Given the history of this particular project, we certainly cannot be vague about what we're approving. It needs to be very specific. We need text and depiction of exactly what is proposed, because there's an absence of informed information all the way along in this project to date.
Well, the same thing goes for the trim. There's absolutely no mention whatsoever of the trim, and in the drawings, there's no corner boards or anything. So, I mean, we can assume it's going to be made to look like the neighbors, but without that in writing, we would have a problem.
there's a basis to expect it to be anything but what we would expect.
That's why we're wanting to continue it, Michelle.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, and I certainly taking another look at the drawings. I mean, I just would like us to, if we're going to continue this, to give the owner some guidance on the things that we're going to be looking for as far as specifics so that they can move forward. You know, obviously they had a contractor and now it looks like they're self-contracting. So I think, you know, it's just helpful for us to provide the information on the specifics that we're looking for. And I think what you mentioned, you know, window trim, you know, the width, you know, what we're doing there, you know, porches, exactly what we're doing with the wood siding, any other guidance that we can provide for them so that they can be prepared?
It is the petitioner's obligation to bring this to us, not to do a set of plans for them.
No, but at the same time, I'd be happy to speak with Jason about it and give him a list of things that need to be provided, the information, so we can give the owner some information. Because at this point, I don't believe the owner has anybody representing him or working for him. And he's gonna have to list all the things that he's doing for us in a way that we understand it. And if I can work with Mr. Simmons, I'm happy to do that.
I apologize retrospectively that some of the board members feel how far it's deviated or that you have not been informed. I want to say that I thought I was in good hands with Atlantic, and that based on the report that Cleary wrote up, that they would be adhering to those steps along the way to give you the information that you were concerned with. And to my surprise, after running 30% over budget and only seeing the project as far along as it is, as you can see in the bottom photo, you can understand hopefully a bit of my frustration with where this is. And as Ms. Hazen pointed out, this has been a long-standing and big project for, you know, for me, who's a first-time sort of home buyer builder here. And so I'm really wanting to make sure that, you know, this corner house, which is next to across the street from a very modern or different modern looking house, and next door on the south end to another more mid-century house, is actually more in line with those 6 houses that are along the 6th Street there to the north. And we will give as much detail as we can, and if you can help us with some of, you know, the specifics that you want. The idea is, you know, that we want the porches to look consistent with the other porches by, you know, not, and you know, as we were approved to remove the chert, that was the idea that we were going for there. And the drawings here are meant to reflect more, you know, you can see, obviously, I admit the difference between the conceptual rendering I did in 3D versus the illustration of the elevation drawings there is differences there, but the idea is to get this on track and to move forward so it can be no longer this lot that's just hanging on 6th Street as a eyesore. But I again, like I had said a few years ago, I want it to look good from the street and keep the effect of a historic home and be able to share the story of it in the future. So.
Can I ask you a question? So when the asbestos was all pulled off the house, where did it go? Like, what was underneath there? Was there wood siding that they also pulled off? I just don't understand why the asbestos wasn't pulled off and then the wood siding was left. Was it gone? Like, what happened?
So as you knew, I don't know if you saw the inspection we got before buying it, but literally it was a dog with all the fleas on it. The wood was rotted to the core. I mean, literally there was a minimum of wood that was able to be saved from the upstairs to the downstairs. You know, there was ceramic, you know, knob and tube wiring and plumbing outside the house like a mobile home, for example. And underneath that asbestos, it was just rotted out from the inside out as well as from the outside in. So the damage was really hard to beat in terms of how much there was throughout the whole thing. We took a lot to plumb up and shore up the house so that it could stay there and not be a victim of like the property to the east side of our lot that was essentially raised. We did the extra effort to make this resemble the historic home that was there, and that's what, you know, that's my anticipation here, without being a millionaire, to continue building this house for $1 million and making it all authentic.
Well, I also would like to make the suggestion though, and I don't know, I'll let the board tell me if I'm incorrect here, but I mean, if you do follow our guidelines that we are providing to you, I mean, I think you've saved enough of the house where you would be eligible for the ad valorem tax exemption, which to me might be a big savings for you. I mean, is there enough of it saved? Can anyone answer that for this to still be eligible for the exemption?
No.
I can't tell you without, you know, somebody from staff going over that. It's questionable. It's questionable at this point.
I mean, because I remember, speaking of the building that's just to the east, I know that we were going to be able to grant that to them, and they had probably this or less than this that they were salvaging before it collapsed. So I remember we were still able to give that. I just think it may be a way, I mean, you know, if it's a financial hardship to, you know, save on taxes over the next few years for these. So just might be something at least worth exploring and not abandoning without at least exploring that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly part of the issue, because I you know, I'm a man of limited resources, so like, you know, that's a big part of it. But as you said, maybe there is a chance that someone else can pay for the wood.
You know, if anything, just saving on the taxes for a bit may be helpful. So, you know, because that ad valorem tax exemption lasts for 10 years, and it just on some of the renovations, so it may be really helpful from a tax standpoint, which would help to offset some of the losses that you've incurred thus far.
Thank you. So we'll follow up with Mr. Simmons on that, or?
Yeah, Mr. Simmons would be the one to follow up with on that.
Do you have any more of that siding left that they took off to use to make sure that you get the siding that was originally on the house? You said that some of it was salvageable.
None of it was salvageable, or at least not from my perspective. I wasn't there every day, and you know, the dumpster is gone. The materials that we've reclaimed are in the back, which are just the brick, really, and a couple beams that were in the middle of the house.
That novelty siding is available here locally. You know, I know trying to match the cost of trying to match a novelty siding and a hardy plank is extremely expensive. So, you know, the wood version that would have been original to this home is accessible and much more affordable than the novelty hardy that replacement.
Okay.
So we're going to.
We're gonna continue it, and then you would get with Mr. Jason Simmons, and then we can talk by phone or however, and I'll give you some guidance as to what we're looking for, you know, in detail, and what are your options, basically. Okay?
That sounds great. One last question. Are there grants for this type of thing to get, you know, to
the tax credits is really about the only way to save money on a renovation. And what that is, it saves you on your property taxes, as Michelle mentioned, every year for 10 years based on how much you spent on the house. So it's advantageous, but as far as there aren't any grants or anything like that to help you with
Unless, the only other thing, do you plan to live in the home? Is that the plan?
Yeah, the idea that was originally the plan.
Okay. You know, because I know there's a state grant. I don't know if it's too late to apply because they're pretty far along in the process, but there is a state grant that if it's any sort of an investment property, there's a 20% tax credit available as well.
If you don't live in the property, is that what you?
That's correct.
You
Okay.
have a motion and a second. You have a motion and a second.
Okay, who made the motion?
I made the motion.
You made the motion, who seconded? Okay, Liz. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Well, let's, once again, any public comment on this?
No, sir, there is no public comment electronically at this time. Again,
right.
I don't know if there's anybody in the room.
No.
If not, the floor is yours.
Okay. All right, Mr. Simmons, let's go ahead and get a roll call on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but who was the seconder? I couldn't hear who that was.
Elizabeth.
Nicole.
Hold on, Nicole, I'm sorry.
Okay. So the move to continue, a roll call vote. Here. Danielle Massey. Danielle Massey.
She don't hear her online.
Aye.
There she is.
Okay. Elizabeth Hausauer.
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg.
Aye.
Elizabeth Hawk.
Aye.
Michael Hill.
Aye.
Bill Warner.
Aye. Aye.
Michelle Hazen.
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And next item under old business. Is petition HP-20-90. Doug Ammerman, owner, certificate of appropriateness and an ad valorem tax exemption, part 1, review to re-roof an existing single-family dwelling with a metal roof and repair windows, the front porch, and termite damage. Located at 730 Northwest 2nd Street, this building is a contributing structure to the Pleasant Street Historic District. In just a moment while I bring up the PowerPoint. Okay, you saw this last month in December. It's the property, it's the Metz Perkins house located at 730 Northwest 2nd Street. The building was built in 1891 according to the property appraiser's office. So it's a contributing structure to the Pleasant Street district. At the time, the applicant was thinking of installing a 5V crimp style metal roof system, although he was also considering the standing seam. And the applicant had indicated that the house was the first bed and breakfast establishment in Gainesville. And this is just the map showing the location of the house, approximately 0.36 acres in land. And then we have some of the pictures of the current state of the house, exterior pictures and also interior pictures. So since that meeting, the applicant has submitted information proposing a Gulf seam, standing seam, metal roof. And here's just some of the product information about that proposal. I don't know if he has chosen a color yet, but typically the board recommends a galvalume or a light to medium gray finish for a metal roof. And so they're proposing to replace the existing shingles with a standing seam metal roofing system. The board approves metal roofing on a case-by-case basis. There's a variety of metal roof types that are evident in the Pleasant Street Historic District. And also the applicant also was talking about a roof alteration that was proposed. And he had submitted this drawing where they're going to alter the roof line. And you see the line showing, I guess, the original line and then the proposed new roof line. So now we have some revised drawings that are addressing this altered or proposed altered roof line. So on the left is a drawing showing at the top the current roof looking east from the backyard. And at the bottom below it is a rendering of what he hopes the new roof would look like looking east from the backyard. And then on the right-hand side, and the next slide is a little bit bigger blow-up of what he drew. But you see a rendering of the roof system. At the top here is where Northwest 2nd Street would be located. So at the top is east, and the backyard in the back is west. You have south on the right and north on the left. Oops. So you have the ridge. The ridge is I guess the green indication. Then the valley are these dark lines shown here. And of course the edge is the drip edge. And I believe I heard the applicant who can better explain.
Yeah, he says he
the-
has a model to show us, Jason.
Oh, okay. So anyway, he can try to explain how the water is traveling on the roof and creating the problems that he's having with leaking. The rest of the slides are slides that you saw before about some of the other work involved, including removing 3 non-load-bearing walls on the porch to bring it back to its original design, the repair of windows, the new roofing, painting, window repair, and termite damage repairs. Let's see. The rest of this is about the ad valorem tax exemption. So let me get out of that. And I believe also in your backup, there's a file with this petition about the scope of work that's proposed.
Okay, Jason, was there anything else?
Yeah, just just a moment, I'm going to share. And you have this, you have a link to this in your backup. The scope of work, the applicant provided a letter indicating the scope of the work that he's proposing for the entire project. A little bit more detail from the previous meeting. Let's see. Repairing all water damage and insect damaged wood, and replacing it. Leveling will be done where settling has occurred. Repainting the floor, ceilings, and walls. Redoing the bath and the kitchen. All windows will be repaired with antique heart pine and glass, or replaced with period windows. He's talking about 2.5 baths to be added. New electrical, new plumbing, new insulation, a new HVAC mini split system to be installed. Replacing the asbestos roof with the standing seam metal roof. The attic roof will be altered to shed water away from the house. Landscaping. And again, he has the paragraph about what he's planning to do about those ridges and the valleys as far as the roof is concerned. So these are the new documents that were proposed to address some of the board concerns. Certainly for the re-roof portion of this, I think we have the normal amount of information that we usually have to vote on a re-roof. The question is some of the other information, particularly about the repair of the roof or the alteration that's proposed. I believe the applicant is in person there, and I guess he has a model to show you.
Correct. Right? Are you ready to explain it to us?
Yeah, for sure. So, looking from the backyard, and you can pretty much only see this from my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you see up there. So, there's the bird's eye view. So you've got all this water heading right to the middle of the house. So what I would like to do, and you can see how, if I just lift this up, how much material, number one, I won't have to do any work in here. It's going to cut down on the amount of work I have to do. And what I want to do is put here's what you see from the front. Right now it's like that.
Right.
And because you can just barely stand up in here, if I raise the whole thing up 20 inches, I'll be able to get the 112 pitch to the back. And to see this roof, you only get glimpses from anywhere you are because of trees. There's large trees here and all around, so that's kind of what I want to do.
What does it look like from the back?
From the back, I didn't, I'll probably put the German siding, or what did you guys, novelty?
Novelty.
Yeah, and a big window or something in there.
Is that engine integrated? Is that gonna shed any water?
First, thanks for the model.
Yes, the
and
model is-
It illustrates the problem, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I want to do.
Well, yeah, your only other solution would be to put a low-pitched cricket roof in there, but what you're trying to do is gain usable attic space too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of it. Use less material, gain space, and fix the problem of the water issue.
Keep in mind, though, the city is gonna want you to provide engineered drawings on how to make all those roof framing changes.
Absolutely.
Which, thank goodness, we don't look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what are you gonna do? Roll down on the flat part? What are you gonna roof
No, I
that
want
with?
to, there's this standing seam, you can do a 112 pitch with the standing seam that's 1 3/4 inches tall. So it'll all be the standing seam.
And you collect it at the rear of the house, basically.
What's that?
Collect everything at the rear of the house.
Absolutely, yeah. Instead of the middle.
Preferably take it down in a gutter, too.
Yeah.
Well, you got a lot of big trees. All right. All right. Does anybody else have any comment? Anybody from?
Yeah, can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
It's a big project. I've been in it, I remember. Okay, anybody from the audience? How about any public comment?
At this time, I do not see any public comment, at least electronically. You are free to continue.
All right, thanks. Billy?
Move to approve HB 2090.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Simmons, you want to do roll call?
Okay, just a moment. Who was the seconder?
I was Mr. Simmons, Michael Hill.
Thank you. And so this vote is for the re-roof or the?
The re-roof
tax
and
exemption?
reconstruction of the rear roof.
What about the tax exemption?
So
It's a part one only. Yeah.
Can I jump in? Question, I mean, it looks like we are also approving the windows, and I noticed that there was a written in the letter about the window, but it didn't give any details about the windows. Is that, are we interested in?
I think we approved the windows last month. He's using existing windows.
Right. Everything's
Yeah.
gonna match the existing, or in
Okay.
some cases, use historic windows that match.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so,
I mentioned it here in the scope.
So the motion is for as the petition is
the
written.
complete COA and ad valorem tax. Yeah.
We're ready for roll call, Jason.
all right, thank you. Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hausauer,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hawk,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Michelle Hazen,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Cool, I get to do all this?
Good luck.
Hey, thanks.
Back in your court.
We'll be checking up on you. Coming over with cameras.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Simmons, any more under old business?
No, the next item is starts new business. Oh, no, there's one more under old business. Petition HP 20-111. Alan G. Weinstein, owner, certificate of appropriateness to construct a single-family dwelling located at 626 Northwest First Street. This building will be a non-contributing structure to the Pleasant Street Historic District. And just Okay, you saw this last month, this involves the construction of a single-family dwelling at 626 Northwest First Street. The house will be approximately 1,681 square feet. You see a highlight of where the property is located. It's about a 1/4 acre in size. The zoning is RC. You see next to the picture of the property. It's a vacant property. And these are just some of the images looking to the south. And then looking to the north. This is all along First Street and looking basically east across the street. Then we had these elevations indicating a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. The lots are 100 feet deep. It looks like they can meet the setback requirements of the RC district. And so one of the issues that came up was the types of materials that were proposed for the new construction. The applicant did submit a little bit more information, and this is a new slide that wasn't in the last month's presentation. So the materials proposed for the project include, for the exterior fabric, a combination of wood and hardy board artisan lap, siding, wood doors, wood-clad windows. The roofing would be fiberglass shingles with wood fascia trim. The foundation would be a raised concrete slab. The porch indicates to be a decking along with brick. And they're also proposing a brick fence. And so staff had recommended last month that I think everybody was okay with the raised slab foundation. Any windows chosen shall utilize the simulated divided lights grill or actual divided light grills for the chosen window. Information sheets for the proposed windows, doors, and roofing material, and notification of staff of any changes during construction. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions, but the applicant is on the line and available for comment and questions.
Okay. Questions of the board, comments?
I was just reading in here and it says the rear setback for the proposed structure cannot yet be determined. Is that still the case?
I think since then I found out from the architect the dimensions that they're proposing, and they would meet it's a 20-foot rear setback. I think they're at 22 feet as shown on the plans.
Good. Okay. Well, we were asked for additional details, and here they are. Everything's spelled out. Okay. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Any online public comment?
No, sir, Mr. Chair. No public comment online at this time. The floor is yours.
Thank you. You can turn your mic on when you do that.
Move to approve HP 2111. Liz,
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Roll call, Mr. Simmons.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Elizabeth Hausauer,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hawk,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Bill Warner,
aye.
Michelle Hazen,
Aye.
Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. And then I believe that brings us to new business.
Yes, that does. Okay, under new business, we have petition HP-20-105, Alejandro and Camille Pauli, owners, certificate of appropriateness to re-roof an existing single-family dwelling with a metal roof located at 300 Northeast 10th Avenue. This building is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District. So the applicant is requesting approval of the re-roof from asphalt shingles to an acrylic coated 26 gauge grade 80 metal residential panel in Galvalume from Reed's Metals. The house was built in 1948. It is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District. You see the property located in yellow. It's, even though it has a 10th Avenue address, it's there in that area, 10th Avenue and Northeast Boulevard. Yeah, that's Northeast 3rd Street as well, is in the area. The zoning is residential single family 3. So it's a, whoops, let me go back. So this is a contributing structure. It's a 1-story early ranch style house with a hipped roof form and a horizontality characteristic of the style. There's a masonry structural system with concrete blocks, a stem wall foundation with concrete blocks, a chimney. There were asphalt shingles on the roof, a shed roof for the porch, and metal casement windows. House is approximately 3,400 square feet in heated and cool, in total area, 3,365 square feet in heated area. There's a picture of the house. Now, if you been by this house, you will probably notice that there is a metal roof that's already been installed on the house. Now, this is a picture of the house prior to the re-roof. This sort of gives you some idea of what has been installed now. And I'll get into explanation further. Here you see the notification sign and just more shots of the existing of the roof that was recently installed. So the applicants did submit for a COA application in November for the proposal to be heard at the December Historic Preservation Board meeting. However, the work started prematurely on the project, and at that time, code enforcement was sent out and issued a stop work order on the work. At that time, some of the house was exposed to the elements, and the building official made a determination that they needed to finish to let the applicants complete the work, since at that time there was almost a month to go before the December meeting, which would be considered too much time to leave the roof open to the elements. This is a picture of the residential roofing and panel that the applicants chose. It's a Reed's metal panel. It's a residential panel, and the color is galvalume. So the proposal replaced the shingle roof with an exposed fastener metal roof. The installed roofing is an acrylic coated 26 gauge grade 80 residential panel in galvalume from Reed's Metals. The board approves metal roofing on a case-by-case basis depending on the style and use of the building. Recommended metal roofing for most buildings in the historic district is a 5V crimp or standing seam metal. The spacing of these roofs is more sympathetic with historic metal roofs, and exposed fasteners are not as numerous or visible. But in line with some recent discussions with the board about low profile roofs, in this particular case with this ranch style house, the low profile roof limits the view of the exposed fasteners, and it's up. It's been installed. It's been in place now almost 2 months. So staff is recommending approval of petition HP-20-105. I believe the applicant is on the line and available to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Does anybody from the board have any questions? Let's get it done.
Go for
My
it.
question is, what would happen if we didn't approve this?
Nothing.
Right, so I don't really know why we have to go through the exercise if they've already put the roof on.
But let's do it.
All right, so who's making the motion?
Mr. Chair, did you open it up to public comment?
No, I hadn't. Anybody from the public like to comment?
There
Anybody
is
online?
no public comment at this time on the electronic side. I don't know if anybody's in the room physically.
Okay, thank you.
A 2-minute question. What's the difference if we approve or deny this? If we deny it, it's still there. If we approve it, it's still there.
Right, that's my point.
That would be an Andrew question.
Thank you. Andrew Persons, interim director. Yeah, if the board denied it, then it would be subject to code enforcement action.
Okay,
Thank you.
there is a difference then.
All right, I move to approve HB 20-105.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Bill and Elizabeth is a second. Jason, so roll call.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll call vote, Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hawk,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Michelle Hazen,
Aye.
Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hausauer,
No.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
The motion passes. By the way, who was the seconder?
Liz Hausauer.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle, you have a question?
No,
Okay, your name popped up, that's why.
I think so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the next three petitions are all related in that they're on a property that was recently subdivided. So now we have a proposal for a two-story duplex to be constructed on each of the three newly created lots. And since they share architectural details and floor plans, we will need a separate vote for each petition item, but the staff presentation incorporates all of them into one.
Okay.
So do you want me to read each one into the record now or after each vote?
I would say after each vote, let's just get on with the general stuff.
Okay, so the next item under new business is petition HP-20-114. Elliot Larkin, owner, certificate of appropriateness to construct a single-family dwelling and a request for modification of the front building placement requirement located in the 300 block of Northwest Fifth Avenue, Parcel 1. This building will be a non-contributing structure to the Pleasant Street Historic District. So this petition is one of three related petitions. They're all in the Pleasant Street District along Northwest Fifth Avenue. The project involves the construction of three, for this particular parcel, the project involves the construction of a two-story duplex. This lot is vacant. The tax parcel, the parent parcel 14288, recently went through the minor subdivision process, which created 3 lots, which at this point in time are designated as parcels 1, 2, and 3. HP 20-114 is on parcel 1. Parcel 1 has an approximately 2,653.5 square feet of land area. And you see the land area for the other 2 parcels. The proposed buildings will be non-contributing structures in the Pleasant Street district. And also as part of this is a request to modify the front setback along Northwest 5th Avenue. You see the location of the property in yellow here. It's right at the corner of Northwest 5th Avenue and Northwest 3rd Street, basically in that little commercial center of the Pleasant Street district. The zoning is urban 6, so it is a transect zoning category. The minor subdivision created 3 lots. As far as its general location within the Pleasant Street district, I consider it sort of in the transition area between Zone A and Zone B. In general, in the neighborhood, the majority of 2-story residences in the Pleasant Street district are located in Zone B or at the north border of the district, like near the 700 block of Northwest 2nd Street. So this was a page from the minor subdivision. You see the old Mount Carmel Baptist Church, which we will discuss later on in the evening for an information item. It lies just to the west of parcel 1. You see parcel 2 and parcel 3. And across the street to the north is located the Daybreak restaurant and a couple of other I believe commercial spaces or maybe some church spaces. So here you have the master plan of the property showing, the 2-story duplex constructed on parcel 1, parcel 2, and parcel 3. You see there would be parking in the back along Northwest 4th Place. Now, there is a request to modify the front setback. Northwest 5th Avenue in this location is designated as a storefront street. In the transect zones, all the streets have some type of designation. Most streets are local streets. However, 5th Avenue, again, in this area is designated a storefront street. And thus the minimum, there's a building placement requirement. The minimum is 20 feet from the back of curb, and the maximum would be 25 feet from the back of curb. So as you see from the placement of, or the proposed placement of the duplexes, as well as the placement of the church to the west and the commercial area, like the Daybreak restaurant on the north side, the request for a modification, and I've talked with Elliot about how we want to word this modification. In the slide here, it says the modification to the setback from 20 to 25 feet to 10 feet, 5 inches. I believe that we'd like to modify that to say that it would be from 20 to 25 feet to no less than 10 feet on the front, to give them a little flexibility depending on what happens as far as the review of the back portion of the property and and Public Works' comments about the, the possibility of being partially in the right of way and how much distance they would want between the property line and the edge of the building is for driveway purposes. So the request is to modify the front setback from 20 to 25 feet to no less than 10 feet. The proposed modification, we believe, will improve the public safety, health, and welfare of abutting property owners in the historic district by enabling the development of a multifamily building on a property that is vacant, has been vacant for many years. The new development will be consistent with the traditional development pattern in the district. As far as the setbacks go, the proposed setback for the duplex is compatible with the setback for the adjacent historic church to the west and the commercial businesses across the street from the subject property that are right on the sidewalk. Staff feels that the requested modification is appropriate for the zoning district and the particular situation at this location. So here are just some views of the property. You see a view looking west towards the church. And these top views here. You see a view basically from Fourth Place looking north at the commercial area where the Daybreak restaurant is located. And here's another view looking south towards Northwest Fourth Place and also towards the Rising Sun Lodge, which is on a property just to the south of the subject property here. So there's a closer view of the commercial area across the street from the subject property. Another view of the Rising Sun Lodge. A view of the back of the old Mount Carmel Baptist Church. And a view to the southeast of the subject property at Northwest 3rd Street and Northwest 4th Place. And then a view to the southwest from the subject property across Northwest 4th Place. So as far as the elevations are concerned, you see this is the east elevation. You see proposing hardy siding and trim, a 30-year shingle roof. There'd be a stem wall foundation for the main floor plan. There'd be piers with a crawl space for the front porches, and that would, and the floor, the finished floor would be about 2 feet above grade. They're indicating MI windows from the 3500 series in white, single hung with low E. So here are some elevations of the back and the front. The front's on the right-hand side. And you see on the left side of the front elevation are the stairs that would lead up to the second unit in the building. One unit would be on the first floor, the second unit would be on the second floor. This is the west elevation. And here are some renderings of the structure from different viewpoints, the sides, the front, and from the back. These are the floor plans. plan on the left is the first floor unit. The plan on the right is the second floor unit. And these are also the approximate square footages of the different rooms that are shown in the floor plan. Yeah, one unit on each floor. Each unit will be 3 bedrooms and 2 full baths with approximately, let's see, 2,436 square feet of conditioned space and 2,721 square feet of total space for the building, for the whole building. This These are some window and door specifications. Just some of the views of the windows at the top. And then the bottom, you have some specifications with the frontal views of the doors proposed. Now, these are just the listing of the new construction guidelines in Pleasant Street. The construction of a 2-story residence with a compatible setback to other buildings in the area should help improve the rhythm of the street, as the new structure will be consistent in scale and spacing with the adjacent historic contributing buildings. As far as height goes, the proposed 2-story structure is compatible in height with the surrounding historic buildings. The proposed height is approximately 28 feet 3 inches from the finished floor elevation to the peak of the roof. But you have the existing church building to the west, which is an institutional structure that is taller than the proposed duplexes. And you also have a 2-story structure located on the property south of Northwest 4th Place, which has the Rising Sun Lodge. The Urban 6 zoning district allows a maximum height of up to 4 stories by right and up to 5 stories in accordance with the development bonus system. And as noted earlier, the proposed stem wall foundation will be approximately 2 feet above grade. As far as roofing, they're proposing a TAMCO 30-year architectural shingle roof system. That would be consistent with roofing styles found throughout the Pleasant Street district. The guidelines talk about porches being strongly encouraged and having sufficient size to accommodate outdoor furniture and easy accessibility. The width and depth should reflect that which can be found on other historic buildings in the district. The proposed porches, they have the same relationship of the front door entry and porch to the street with adequate space for outdoor furniture. The scale of building, again, the proposed building is compatible in scale with some of the surrounding historic structures. And here are the other guidelines. So with that, staff recommends approval of petition HP-20-114 with the following conditions: that the board concurrently approve the administrative modification for the front or north yard setback from the 20 feet minimum and 25 feet maximum to less than 10 feet, to no less than 10 feet from the back of curb. Provide information sheets for the proposed windows, doors, and the architectural shingle roof system, and notify staff of any changes during construction. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. I believe the applicant is in the audience.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Questions of the board?
Chairman, I wish to disclose that I had a conversation with Mr. Larkin some time ago, and that is to say late November, early December, making some comment on the plans at that time. I am not retained by Mr. Larkin or otherwise compensated in a way that would compromise my current comments or vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Anybody else have any questions of the applicant at this point, or comment?
It looks like this is going to be 2.5 feet from the sidewalk. Is that accurate from this drawing? Like you can reach out and touch the sidewalk or the people walking by?
Yes, the sidewalk is part of what is part of the CRA, Community Redevelopment Agency's thing. So it's a wider sidewalk than you would normally have. And
Mr. Chairman, I can't hear the applicant.
Yeah, you'll have to speak in the mic for him to hear you.
The sidewalk is built by the CRA, so it's got brick in it, and it's wider than the normal sidewalks would be. So the current sidewalk there is 10 foot wide. So we're pretty close to that sidewalk right now.
But if you went with the 20 to 25 foot setback, there'd be more room to the sidewalk.
Yes,
correct?
that is true. I'd like to just comment about the setback and how I do my best to do my due diligence to not have any variances coming before the board. And I just found out about this one today. Jason called me over the holidays and I was out of town, didn't hear about it. But I was under the impression that this was a local street, and it makes sense that it would be. But I also understand that it is a storefront. I see the daybreak across the street. But all those buildings are also only 10 feet away from the street as well. The Mount Carmel Church is actually less than that. It might be about 6 or 7. And so it seems like it's in line with the rest of the street as well, and it's not breaking up the pattern any more than what's already there.
Yeah.
I guess from my perspective, it's comparing apples to oranges. This is residential, even given the street. I feel like it's a lot of density on that lot. And then to go, in an area that's low to medium density, to go that density and that height up to every corner just feels massive to me. Is there any way you can modify the deck so you don't have to go that close on the front? I mean, I know you'd have to squish your floor plan, but that's a lot of density on that lot. That would be my comment.
Keep in mind the buildings that are in the neighborhood around it.
Are low.
Well, no, the church is
Well, the
quite
church
high,
is big, but across the street, those are all low.
generally.
And it's all cottages on the other side,
Right.
on the east.
And I think it goes back to your point, we're talking residential versus with
Commercial.
the daybreak and the church. It just seems like when you have new construction, as you said, they have this new sidewalk, but with new construction, it just seems like you could modify something to make it a little less up to the, not to the curb, but up to the sidewalk.
I was gonna say, it's not uncalled for.
It's what?
Not uncalled for, because the closer you get to Main Street, the houses get a little bit more urban feel and are closer. Because my house was originally on Northeast 2nd Street, and it sat about 2.5 feet off the sidewalk there. And that was in the duck pond, so, and it was just that it was closer to Main Street and First Street.
How deep are the porches?
8 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's just
what-
a lot of 3 side by side, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom.
Right, well, what helps is the fact they're elevated also. That helps you compensate for being so close to a sidewalk. If you were not elevated, I'd say not a good idea.
Yeah, I'll be on record to say that I think the proximity you're proposing is desirable for that immediate context.
Yeah. And given the fact that is a double the size of a normal sidewalk, that's what you gotta realize. It's not like, if it were a 5-foot sidewalk and you're right to the curb, I'd say that's too close.
Yeah, I'm going back to the fact that there's 3 parcels.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking just, all of a sudden, there's gonna be on that corner.
It's more of an urban scale building, but
What's the difference, what's the measurement between each building?
10 feet between the 2 buildings, and then 15 feet.
So there's 5 feet to the dividing line, there's like a 10 feet?
The side lot lines are built to.
No, I mean in between the buildings,
Right,
it's
so 10 feet total.
10 feet total.
Can I comment? Hello.
Yes, Michelle.
So, gotta say, you know, I've been looking pretty closely at these plans. I mean, they are identical buildings. You know, I get infill, I'm all for that. I don't even really take issue with the setbacks, but I just don't understand this concept for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, the stairwell coming up in the front, that is just really something that we wouldn't see. I really find it that I would object to that on the corner of 3rd and 5th. I mean, that's what you're going to see, is you're going to see the side of a stairwell, which I just don't think you would have ever seen that kind of a profile. And it's going to be really obvious driving down 3rd Street. You know, personally, I don't even understand the design because you have parking in the back. So what then these people are kind of walking either through their neighbor's windows, or it just feels, I'm confused by it. I don't understand why. I mean, to me, it would read a lot better if the porches, if that stairwell was not there at all in the front. You know, I think there should be access at the back where the cars are actually going to be parked. I think typically you would have seen, I don't even understand how these would be approved from like a safety issue. You only have one means of egress unless I'm missing it somehow. But, you know, for rental properties or anything, there should be a second door. I'm not understanding, like, as far as, you know, if you were living here, how that would function. There's no way, you know, what you're dragging your groceries from the car all the way around. I don't think 5th Avenue has great street parking. In fact, I don't think it has any. So to me, there's just a lot of things. The unit that's on the corner of 5th Avenue and 3rd Street, I see no reason why there couldn't have been something architecturally interesting, like a wraparound porch or, you know, something different. I could see the 2nd story, you know, being, the orientation being different. I mean, maybe the 2nd story has the porch off the back. I mean, I just see it being very blocky on the back. I just see a lot of things that could be improved upon this to make it a nice addition to the neighborhood. This just feels like we're getting density without any historic. Again, it just feels like it's a blocky building, and I just don't see how this adds anything. I know that they're about to do a lot of work on the church, and, you know, there are homes that face the side of this west elevation that it just, anyway, those are my comments.
Okay. All right, thank you, Michelle. Anybody else have comments? Do you want to try to
Sure.
address any of that?
Yep. So about the, so this property has frontage on 3 different streets.
Sure.
So it made the most sense for us to make the front porch along Northwest 5th Street it just seemed to make sense, and to be able to put the parking on the on Northwest 4th place makes sense as well. As far as the orientation, we did play around, and we were happy to play around with different designs, different roof lines, and kind of styles of 3 different duplexes. And we have other drawings as well that we could show you, but we just ultimately thought that this one was the strongest, and that it holds the most weight just by making them similar with just a different gable design.
Mm-hmm.
And that gable pattern. And then as far as the floor plan, I mean, that's opinion. we think that it's a really nice design, and we think that it's not unreasonable to walk around from your parking area. If you live in most places, any apartment or at all, you generally have to walk a good distance to your front door. And then we are in compliance, as far as I understand, with having one egress and anything else and something else, but oh yeah, and with the number of parking spaces required.
Okay.
Just to respond back, thinking about this is a really well-traveled street with some really beautiful, architecturally interesting buildings. You say that you have additional plans. I guess I would really like to see those. I mean, especially and I can understand wanting to orient on Fifth Avenue, but I mean, realistically, creating something architecturally, I mean, you've put porches out on the front on the north side. There's absolutely, I mean, so the buildings, the brightest light is going to be on the south side. I mean, so you're losing all the great natural light. I mean, already because the buildings are so close together and you have limited windows on the west elevation of each of these, you're going to have some really dark units. So it's also thinking about light and how this is going to function. I just, as a historic board, I mean, checking a couple boxes here. I mean, again, that stairwell, we wouldn't see that. This just doesn't have architectural, what we'd see. It's a box. And, I really struggle with us, when we have so many other designs come in front of us where people are very thoughtful with those designs. This is just a box with a porch. I mean, it just doesn't, it's not giving, it's just not adding anything to that street or to the neighborhood. I just, and again, just functionally too, I just don't understand it, but that's neither here nor there, but I just feel like as a board, we have to insist that we are approving things that are bringing some life and goodness to the neighborhood. This just doesn't do that for me. I feel like it's a box with a porch on one side. And, it really doesn't make life easy for people living there. And they will be dark. I mean, personally, I just can't approve something like this for Pleasant Street. It makes me rather sad, especially that corner unit.
I think that probably it's easy as a builder to want to just replicate because it makes it more cost effective in terms of your materials and your subs and everybody's has to work on the project, because you can just put up the same thing 3 times or twice. I know you do a lot of double duplexes and things, and I can appreciate that. But I have to say I agree with Michelle. I think we're getting too many things where they're side by side, same height, same everything. You're a creative person, obviously. You love what you do. I think you can work with your architect and put a little bit more creativity into addressing the needs of the site as well, which is what Michelle, I agree on the light issue. You're not going to have any light in those units at all. And no sun on the porch side, on the north side. So I would agree that I think when we challenge you to do better, you come back and you do better, and I appreciate that. And I think you can do better here and not have them just be 3 cookie cutter pieces on that corner. That would be my feeling.
I'll comment on the porches. If Fifth Avenue were on the south side, the porches would make sense to be on the south side. But I think the porches address the vibe of the street, which is what a porch is all about in the first place. So the placement on the north side, makes sense to me. I think a lot is packed into the plan. I mean that constructively. So I'm not having the same trouble in regard to the essential character of the building.
I would just say that personally, if at least make them different colors, and if it's possible to change some of the detailing, because I do kind of agree, you don't typically see things in that neighborhood stamped out. It's more of a contemporary approach, and that's disheartening, but I understand the economies of things too, in that neighborhood especially.
I'm gonna comment on that comment. I just, when you talk about the economies in that neighborhood, this neighborhood has had tremendous construction. We have beautiful homes being built there, thoughtfully being built there, that are pulling top dollar in our downtown area. The rents in this neighborhood are extremely high. We have people that have lived in this neighborhood for generations, and you know, if we are building in this neighborhood and coming into this neighborhood, I think we need to be respectful of the fact that it has charm. Painting it different colors, to me, that's not what we're asking of a lot of the other builders. And, you know, it's certainly, you know, for the homeowners that are putting, you know, their energy into preservation. I mean, we're not allowing people to, you know, do certain things with their preservation projects. I know we just had some things and we said, no, you can't tear it down. You know, you have to preserve the structure, you know, because it's important. Yet, you know, we're allowing new construction in that is somehow not important. If we're going to put the scale of the porches, I'm hard pressed to think of any building that I can think of that has a side apartment stairwell, half internal with a diagonal wall facing a primary street. It doesn't, there's nothing architecturally significant, interesting here. I just think it devalues all of the quality work that we're seeing builders put into this, you know, the quality of the construction that was originally there. So, I mean, just a block away, we have the Woodstock House, we have, you know, a lot of really, you know, late 1800 homes. I know I own property within blocks of this. There's some really interesting homes here in this area. This is just, there's nothing architecturally historic, interesting. This is a box. And I just think as a board, we need to be asking more. I mean, I agree with Liz. I mean, we have, you know, we've seen changes come back. I mean, that can be interesting. And I just think that I get it. You know, you're looking at scale. As a board, we don't mandate what happens on the inside of these projects. If people want to kind of, you know, save on costs, we'll save it on the finishes, save it on the internal stuff. But I think historically in this district, we need to protect that district in terms of making sure that the buildings that are being built new have some sort of, you know, character, you know, because that's what this neighborhood has. And certainly I just don't see character here or anything that's true to form historically. I do appreciate the windows. I know we've had those discussions in the past with some of these projects, but I just would like to see, especially the building that's buffering that can be seen on 3 sides. I mean, to me, that building, at the very least, that building should be very different from the other 2 in terms of speaking to the surrounding structures. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Do we have any public comment?
No, sir. At this time, we do not have any public comment. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I'd like to address a couple things.
Sure.
So that we can get a little bit more clarity. Okay, first is about the setback. Mm-hmm. I'd like to get some clarity on that, because if we're going to be doing any kind of changes, I'd like to have that addressed. And then second is about the stairs on the exterior, and how, you know, this is a differentiation from the rest of the neighborhood. It's not, we're not restoring or trying to match something exactly. So there are elements like the roof line and a lot of the other elements of the house that we do see in the neighborhood. And I do recognize that the stairs are a different element than that, but they will be painted in the same, probably the same body color or whatever preference you guys have, so that they blend in as the best possible way. That's all.
Okay. Just a comment on the stairs. If you look at the historically, where do you see exposed stairs? It's usually on the rear end of something, like on a service porch at the very back or the back of a commercial building. Rarely do you see stairs open in the front of a building. I can't really think of any examples like this. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're calling it out as being something that's foreign to the neighborhood. Okay. So what is your feeling? You want us to vote on what's there, or do you want to go back and attempt to make some corrections?
I would like more clarity and an approval for the setback before something, because that's a big important aspect of this whole project. And
would you?
I also want to say that I called Mr. Simmons months ago about this, specifically about this question, and
yeah.
It, not in the same words, but I was asking about, I understand how you can encroach on the, I don't know what you call it, the term for that, but encroach on the regular setback for the front with a porch. And so I was calling to ask him about, with the stairs, can you do that with stairs as well? And he said, there's nothing that says you cannot. So that's how we proceeded based on that information. So just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Would you be satisfied? I was going to say, what now? Anybody?
I was going to just say, as far as the setbacks, I mean, I think, we as a board, I mean, I've seen us being willing in the Pleasant Street neighborhood to make things, and looking at the rhythm of that particular street, that I think the case could be made, but it's I mean, in its current incarnation, I mean, I would vote no on this project, because as a whole, it just doesn't read well. It just feels like we're putting too much in there. I mean, I wouldn't approve this project in its current state just because it just doesn't work. I mean, I don't feel like there's a rhythm here. I mean, the porch on the front, for all the reasons I've talked about. So, but I mean, if the project was improved and it feels like it's really contributing, well, then those setbacks are really making sense to the neighboring properties. I mean, then that's different. It's hard to say, yeah, okay, we would definitely approve your setback if we don't have a project that makes it valuable to make a concession. Oftentimes I feel like we make concessions on setbacks because, okay, we're getting a good project that's really going to add something. To me, that's not this project right now.
Okay, the situation though, the developer needs to know whether or not the setback is a go to find out if this design is even viable, let alone improving it. And
well, if we don't, how do we,
it's
difficult for me to approve a design that doesn't work, and then say, yeah, okay. I mean, I think I would be open to the setback, right? If it was a good project that worked.
What I'm talking about is looking at it in terms of plan. Does this much building in this location work with that setback reduction? Because that's one of the major questions he's got to have answered before he can go any further. And I understand that. The rest of it can be revisited. The look of the building and all that is not really the issue right now, I think, because you're going to take the opportunity to go back and revisit some things. But the question of the setback, and I don't know that if we can separate that out, other than we could take a straw vote on the idea of the setback being reduced. See if that's what you were looking for as a read.
It's very important for moving forward.
Well, I understand, yeah, because if you don't get that, then it doesn't matter what anything else is. You're done.
Right.
You got to start over. But if the setback at least is kind of a given, sounds like the city is willing to accept it. Various of us have different opinions on it. If we can give you that information as just a straw poll, with our reasons, would that be enough for you to go back?
Could we do it like a preliminary approval? of
It's
the
exactly
setback
what it would be
pending
like a
changes?
preliminary approval, but it's really the setback only based on the footprint.
Changes.
Not based on the look of it, not based on where the staircase is.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I think we've given you a lot of feedback, but I understand your point. Without having that major question answered, and, you know, the city has already said they're okay with it. It's just a matter, are we okay with it?
And I think if you add on some architectural detail, I think we're all gonna be okay with it.
I think you can get there.
Get there.
Yeah, I think you can
And
get there,
I'd
but
be
you're gonna have
happy
to
with a straw
rework
poll.
things. And, you know, like I said, you really need to know, can I work with these plans?
Yeah, I for one, for the reasons cited earlier, feel like it should be brought out and support the idea of the modification.
Okay, Liz?
I'm okay with it with architectural changes to the buildings.
Okay. And I had brought up the point that I think it is more of an urban design on Fifth and around that area right there, the core of the neighborhood. So I kind of think, if you think of historic cities, you see residences and businesses mixed up and they all kind of line up. So given the fact we've got a 10-foot wide sidewalk, I support that. I would support the modification.
Yeah, with, what you're gonna add here and come back with something that is more in line with a historic district. I would support that as well.
I would support that as well. I mean, I'm not opposed to the setback idea because I think it does follow the rhythm of the street. You know, just throwing another idea out there, is there a reason they have to be standalone duplexes? Is there a reason you couldn't gain the 10 feet between the buildings and recapture more of the site space in a different way?
You would lose the windows between the units, which I think are necessary, probably.
Yeah.
Because they're very
Yeah, you
long,
gotta-
skinny
yeah.
units. You can't do that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, but you would gain light for two of the units. I mean, depending if you did some redesign, you know, if you kind of smashed them all together, you could get some really good light on the two end units.
Michelle,
and then
think about the forms of the building in that neighborhood. They're typically long and skinny. You start putting all that together, it's going to start to resemble an apartment building.
Yeah, but you've got mass on three sides. You know, you've got the church to the west. You've got the strip, you know, with the restaurant in it across the way, which is all connected. And then you've got the big lodge on the other side where everything's connected. I mean,
okay, well,
If
this
they were townhouses, that'd be one thing.
yeah,
but
if they were
they're not
townhouses, it'd be different. But these are fairly long, they're fairly deep, and I'm sure their reasoning is probably because of light and windows.
Yeah, we'd like to
Egress,
have
too.
more windows. That would
Yeah,
be
you gotta
ideal.
have windows for bedrooms.
But I also don't see that it's even doable to put them together as far as the
that's
setbacks
right.
and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
yeah, maybe.
I
An
don't know,
idea.
but I'd be all for you figuring out a back door as well. With Michelle on that. You can figure out a way to get in from.
Well, it requires two staircases if you do
That's
that,
true.
which eats
That's
up
true.
more of the property.
That's true.
Yeah, so.
Why does it require two staircases?
If
It
you get
doesn't.
upstairs.
Well, you can't have a back door on the second floor to nowhere.
You can't have a back door on the second. I mean, couldn't you do a stairwell off the back for the second unit, right? Bring it in. And then, I mean, you know how a lot of historic buildings, you'll see just a little inset porch on the back.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's for,
And then
that's for Elliot to figure out.
That's their
Yes.
problem, not ours.
Their burden to bear.
Right,
Not
right,
ours.
you're right.
We're not designing it.
No, we're not. We're
I
just
just would
guiding
love
them.
to.
But I'd love to see some good design though.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Okay, you're done. Michael, I believe it was your turn to have a say.
I don't know, it just like, yeah, it's cookie cutter McMansions, and you know, like I said, it's the core of the neighborhood. It just looked really weird in my opinion. So that's just me, you know.
Okay, you have issues with it. Okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I've just been quiet.
Okay, all right. That's kind of where the board stands right now on that issue. So hopefully that'll help you. The rest of it, I think you kind of got
Yeah.
some constructive criticism.
Yeah, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Simmons, so I think we're looking at continuing on all three.
Mr. Chair, did you make a motion to continue? Was there a motion made to continue and a vote?
Make a motion to continue
I will second that.
each individually.
You could probably just do it for us.
Hey, could you please state who, it was kind of muffled.
Nicole Nussberg, I'm making a motion to continue HP 20-114, motion to continue HP 20-126, and a motion to continue HP 20-127.
And Mr. Chair, that's being continued to the next meeting. Is that our understanding? Okay.
If he can make it, yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's continued to the one after that.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Second it.
that's Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any public comment, or anything? Okay. All right.
No, sir, there's no public comment.
Okay, thank you. Then I would say roll call, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Elizabeth Hawk,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Michelle Hazen,
Aye.
Danielle Massey, Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hausauer,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Mr. Chair, the next item is member comment.
Okay, Mr. Warner.
Okay, as I said in my note in response to the notice of agenda, I feel strongly either we're having a Zoom meeting or we're having an in-person meeting, that it's one thing if you're out of town and can attend by Zoom. If you're here in town, you're here or you're absent. So, and that should be the way we're operating. I would sure rather be at in my home office participating in this than being here. So, yeah, I think that should be the case.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have comment?
As a parent, I would like to comment that it is sometimes difficult, even if I'm in town. I had a childcare issue tonight and got lucky and made it, but I mean, I do my best to come here, but I know we have, outstanding issues.
Yes, also, I would like to comment. I was exposed to COVID and I absolutely could have come in and coughed all over, but I thought it was more proper for me to stay home, but I still wanted to participate as it is my duty as a board member.
All right, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll just say that if we're gonna have a semi-Zoom meeting until things are different, I will be participating from my home office.
Except we have to have a quorum, so that leaves,
Oh,
you have to have a quorum in person or it doesn't count.
yeah, I know that.
Okay,
Well, okay.
okay. That brings us to public comment. Does anybody have anything they'd like to address?
No, sir. This time on the lines, we do not have anybody here.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me? Sorry, the mask is not ideal.
My name's Carolyn Weber. We had a petition last month for a demolition in Pleasant Street. We were actually on the agenda today, and we've had some indecision on how we want to proceed with this. So I guess I'm here asking for maybe some advice, and then also just to try and figure out the best way to resolve our situation. First, I want to thank you guys for volunteering and being on this board. I know it's not easy and you can't please everyone. We certainly were not pleased last month, but I think that what we're really looking for is a little more collaboration and maybe just, I think that we were misrepresented last month. There were some things that were said that I thought were borderline inappropriate about us. And so I kind of want to give you the history of not just us, but also the house that we're talking about, and then maybe go forward from there. So Meg and I both live in the city of Gainesville, within the city limits. I'm on the northeast side, she's on the northwest. I've been rehabbing houses for about 3 years. I primarily work within a mile of my own home. The reason that I do that is because I want to invest in my neighborhoods. So I started off mostly in the Northeast, and we've done some in the Northwest. We did the house in Pleasant Street. We got the opportunity to buy 2 houses, one in Pleasant Street and one in the Fifth Ave area. I also know that these 2 areas there's some issues with gentrification. We weren't really aware of that, and maybe you can just call me oblivious, but when we bought the houses, I didn't actually know the history of those neighborhoods. So this is where we're coming from. I understand and I want to work within those neighborhoods, but I also understand that there's gentrification, that we need to be sensitive to the neighbors. So having said all that, the house that we're talking about in the Pleasant Street area is, we knew it was 2 lots when we bought it. Our intent when we bought it was to rehab the house and build a house. So we bought the house, we had to make a quick decision. You know, it happens like that when you're getting good deals, what we thought was a good deal. The house ended up being on the 2nd lot. Also, during that time, we rehabbed a house on 3rd Street. You know, we spent over $100,000 rehabbing that house. So that was a lesson that we learned about and that was a 1,000 square foot house, over $100,000. It was in much, much better shape than the house that we're talking about. The previous owner had done work to the subfloor. He had replaced all of the 2x4s because I believe that house probably initially was even worse or as bad as the house that we have now, but he did all that work unpermitted. That's why he ended up selling it. So the house that we have, just to give you an idea, because you guys had the pictures last month, but I don't know how much you guys looked at them. The house is, it's a box. It's a 700 square foot box, basically. It has been vacant for over 30 years. So I did some research on it. It was owned by a gentleman who had multiple properties in Pleasant Street. He passed away and he sold it. In the 90s, it was boarded up. There's a permit for a board up. It has not been, it's been vacant ever since. It's changed hands probably 2 or 3 times before us, and now we have the house. I'm assuming that this entire time that it's been vacant, it had termites, because there's no board in that house that isn't crumbling. And we take old houses and we make them nice. Our intent is not to demolish houses. I like old houses. I love old houses, and I love the houses in Pleasant Street, and I love tiny houses, as a matter of fact. So I've fallen through floors at my houses before. It's pretty common that the termites are that bad that you step on a board and you fall through. I have never been in a house that has had every single piece of wood eaten by termites. prior to this house. I would say that the trusses are okay. That's it. The outside of the house is covered in metal. There is no wood on the outside of the house. It's covered in metal with lathe, metal roofing materials, so galvanized aluminum, and then covered in stucco. The stucco is holding the house together. If the stucco was not in the house would not be standing. So this brings us to where we are today. I've had movers come out. They say it's possible that they could move it. They also say that there's a 50-50 chance it's gonna fall apart if we move it. I would say that the joists are all rotten. So, you know, I don't know how that's gonna hold up. And like I said, the trusses are okay. There is some wood on the porch that isn't bad. There's a little bit of beadboard on the ceiling of the porch that might be not rotten. Other than that, that's the condition of the house. You know, we obviously don't want to move the house and have it fall down. We also do want to build a house on that second lot. So I guess what I'm looking for is some help with some sort of a solution. The original proposal was to, demo the one house, build two houses. We don't like cookie cutter houses, so we're working with Jennifer Langford. Two different houses is what we wanted to do that were architecturally interesting and that fit the neighborhood. I'm not against trying to rehab that house or recreate that house. Basically that's what we'd be doing, is rebuilding it from the inside out, because there's nothing that will be standing when we are done with the house. There's nothing. We might be able to use some of the trusses as support, I don't know. So that's where we stand. So I don't want to come back here next month and ask for the same thing and get denied again. But I also, logistically, we need a solution to the problem. So I guess I'm just asking for some help here.
Let me ask you this. Could your architect do an evaluation of the structure of the building?
Has she?
Yeah.
She's been there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has, and
Well, what I'm saying is, and put it in the form of a letter detailing out for it to be part of our packet, so we can have an evaluation from somebody that knows something about construction, that, not that you guys don't, but somebody that's not you guys, that would detail out what the physical conditions are. And also talk about what is the condition of the original fabric of the building. Because I'll be honest, one of the things I got out of looking at the photos is it doesn't look like there's hardly any original fabric left on the interior.
There's nothing.
And I did notice last time that there's stucco on the outside, but if you're telling me there's no wood siding beneath the stucco,
no,
which wouldn't be in good shape anyway, because it's been covered up with something that's gonna hold the water in, really we're talking about a frame. And if we're talking about a frame and you've got termite issues already, there's a good chance even that frame's not going to be in good shape. So
the frame is not in good, that's what I'm saying. My husband's a civil engineer. After the last meeting, I said, let's try to do this. So I brought him over, and he just looked at me and said, what is there to move? And he said, there's nothing in this house that's savable. The frame, the only thing that is not completely, like if you hit it with a screwdriver, it turns to dust.
I get it.
All of the framing, except for the trusses. So.
All right, well, what I'm saying is, what I would say is, if your architect does an honest evaluation of the structure of the building, of the original fabric of the building, and presents it to us, that would help us as a board, I think, to have something to
Yeah,
look
because
at.
this is all new. Like, I mean, I feel like a lot of what you're presenting tonight.
Yeah, we didn't know.
I remember this from last time, and this seems like a tremendously
Well, we
different
were on Zoom, and that was our mistake, I think, was to not come in person, because it's very difficult when you're on Zoom to, to get your point across. I thought the pictures would give you the big picture.
Well, most of what we're looking at is out there or in black and white in our backups, so the pictures don't really help us that much. And when you're seeing a picture of it from the street, that doesn't tell you a thing about the conditions. And like I said, I could pick up little bits and pieces, and I had suspicions that it was in pretty bad shape, and there wasn't much original fabric left because of all the previous remodelings.
Well, and I don't think I told you, after that meeting, when we went over there, I knew that there was some metal that was under the stucco, so I thought there was some wood also. So we kind of dug deeper, and they removed the wood, and they replaced it all with, not even lathe, it's metal, and you can see it in one of the bathrooms. You can actually see the interior wall is metal.
Yeah.
So I thought, I kind of laughed when we saw that. I was like, that's, haha, it's metal with stucco over it. Who would do that? But, so it's all metal.
All right, well, those are the kind of things I think you have your architect detail out in a little letter evaluation. Do you agree that?
Or better yet, make a presentation.
Or better yet, have her come and just talk about what she saw. But I think having something in writing beforehand, so we could kind of get an idea of what the building conditions are, as, you know, judging by somebody that's used to looking at this, putting it in writing, and somebody that's not you two. I think that it would help all the board members at least honestly see it, because when we're hit with just pictures during a meeting, we're taking in the building and all that, but we're not looking at the details, because we can't see the details from those pictures and really see what you guys see in person. And I think having somebody that's educated and deals with this, give us their honest opinion of how much of the original building's even still there.
So, and that's the other thing is, like, some of the porch might be original.
Yeah.
And I would love to save as much as we can of the original. If there's anything that we could save, I would be
Anything
more,
that
I
can be
love old
salvaged
houses.
should
This
be.
is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I like old houses a lot. This is why I do this. This is why we don't rehab houses in Hale Plantation that were built in the 90s, because I don't like those houses. So, you know, we can get a structural engineer, we can get a architect. I don't know which would be better.
Honestly, engineer is not that good, because they tend to overdo it, and they tend to call it as all being bad, where architects are more, you know, I'd say fair at evaluating things. She would pick up on whether or not there are any wood floors left in the building, you know, things like that.
You would still need either a lot line adjustment or to relocate the foundation of the new house, though, correct?
Yes.
Can you do a lot line adjustment, and you can?
I don't think so. They're 30-foot wide lots. They're already
Okay.
very, very
They're
small.
already 30 foot. It's the house is in the wrong spot.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
But-
so if we had it drawn up with the two houses,
Mm-hmm.
we would need a variance to get a reasonably sized house. We're not trying to build a monstrosity. It was 1,500 square feet, something like that, 2-story. So they're very narrow to begin with, even with the variance, because the lots are pretty small.
I think you can hear from our previous conversation with Mr. Larkin that we're not generally fond of the cookie cutter look, so keep that in mind, I would say, in your thinking on how to approach it, if we can get past this stumbling block of the existing structure.
Yeah, so when we designed it, I specifically told Jennifer, I don't want two houses that look the same.
Okay.
I want each house to look different, and I want them to be interesting. I don't like the cookie cutter houses. Honestly, I don't like a lot of the houses that are even being built in Pleasant Street right now. So I like the old houses that are boxes, and if you're gonna do a new house, I think it should be interesting, you know?
So I don't know if you guys normally ask for a reconsideration then, and then if we're gonna apply for.
Could we get your name for the
Oh, my
record?
name's Megan, sorry,
Megan.
Megan Atwater.
Okay.
Or should we, one or the other, I talked to Jason earlier today, or do we have to also apply, should you guys not approve the demolition then formally to move the house? Or can that be a staff approved?
That can be staff approved based on what comes out of that meeting, but I think if you want to revisit the demolition idea with some new evidence, then just bring it to us on that.
Okay, so that's then we're good, then we don't have to, and then otherwise our new constructions is, I think, should already be on the agenda next month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Just for my.
Mr.
But-
Chair, can
yes.
I make a suggestion?
Yes.
The, because the board already took action at the last meeting to deny the demolition, what we would look for from staff is just a motion and a second, and then a vote to reopen the item, and then we would agenda it at your next meeting.
Okay, as opposed to a new COA.
Correct, right.
Good,
right.
then that makes sense, yeah. But like I said, you kind of have to have, whoever you have look at it, I'm not just saying it has to be Jennifer, but I'm sure she would do it, is to talk about physically what are the real conditions, what's gonna have to be replaced, and how much of the original fabric is intact. Because I think that's the kind of stuff we make evaluations on. Back in the good old days when we could go out and look at a building and evaluate it, it was much easier. Looking at screens, you can't see squat.
Yeah, that's what Sean, my husband, said. Someone just needs to come out here, they'd see it immediately. I mean, it's
Yeah.
about a 2-second thing. You go out there, you would say, there's nothing here. But obviously, to convey that to you guys via pictures is pretty difficult.
And it would be helpful if she's here that we can ask her questions about what she saw and all that, because, that's very helpful for us.
I'd like to add that I think adding some, I mean, it's certainly seeing pictures would be helpful, kind of close-ups, the interior showing that there's no floors. I mean, things like that, any sort of documentation that can be shared would be really helpful.
Yeah. And where you open the wall up behind the stucco, because as soon as I saw the stucco, that was warning signs to me. Because usually what's behind it's a bunch of rotting wood, and if there's no wood at all, then that's a whole nother problem.
Yeah, so we did rehab a house that was in the same condition in the southeast, but it had wood behind the stucco. So it still was being held together by stucco. I mean, it's the same. The wood was all rotten, but at least it had wood. This one has no wood, so it's a little bit different.
At least it had some walls. Yeah,
Okay.
I know, they can be bad.
Okay.
We've all been there.
All right,
Thank you,
that's
guys.
the advice I
Thank
give.
you. So do we have to do a motion to reopen it, like Andrew just said?
Yeah, I think if you want to make a motion to reconsider
Okay.
the demolition, and we'll.
So it's not closed yet.
I don't think we have an item number though, do we? Because they weren't on the agenda.
Okay, let's hear your comment.
So I went by there after the last meeting and took a look at it, just walked around. I'm into saving anything that can be saved, and I don't want to be a part of gentrification, but the one I'm working on was going to be bulldozed. But I walked around and I wouldn't even go there to salvage. It's thanks for offering it to me, but yeah, you can't even give it.
I don't blame you.
They couldn't even give me that one, so.
Well, that's actually good to know.
All right, well, that's a testimony. All right, we need a motion to reopen this.
I will move.
Hang on, we're waiting for the item number.
I'll move to reopen the item at hand. I'll let staff identify the exact HP.
Okay, is that good enough for you, Jason?
And I'll second it. I'll second it.
Hello?
The item number now.
I heard Bill make a motion, but I didn't hear all of it.
Okay, we don't have an item number, so he made a motion. He can repeat it.
The motion was to reopen the item that we have just been discussing and simply have staff fill in the appropriate HP number that corresponds.
Okay,
Would this be for the demolition?
this would be for the demolition or possibly moving.
Because then the item number for the demolition is HP-20-94.
Okay.
All right, I've just moved to reopen that one.
Was there a second?
I seconded. Liz?
Okay, you want to do a roll call on that?
Okay. Roll call vote. Michelle Hazen,
Aye.
Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hausauer,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hawk,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, Jason, I believe that brings us next to staff-approved certificates of appropriateness.
Yeah, it's there for your review.
Right.
There's
Okay.
no presentation.
Where are they? What are they?
Just titled.
Next, that brings us to informational items.
Okay, there's two information items. Information item A is a National Register nomination, University Evangelical Lutheran Church, located at 1826 West University Avenue. University Evangelical Lutheran Church, the owner. In just a moment while I pull up the PowerPoint. Okay, so this is again, a proposal to nominate the University Evangelical Lutheran Church complex at 1826 West University Avenue onto the National Register of Historic Places. So this is part of a process. We received the letter from the historic preservation folks up in Tallahassee indicating the desire to nominate this property for the National Register. So at this stage, we're at the Historic Preservation Board to get your support for that nomination. The next step would then be before the Florida National Register Review Board, which meets in Tallahassee on February 4th. Assuming all goes well at that point, it then goes to the keeper of the National Register in Washington, D.C. For a date to be determined. But the property is located obviously on West University Avenue, sort of across from the football stadium. The property has urban 8 zoning. And the property is being nominated as it's been determined that it meets criterion C, the National Register nomination process, a property that embodies the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or method of construction, or represents the work of a master, or possess high artistic values, or represents a significant and distinguishable entity whose components may lack individual distinction. So I think this area is familiar to most people who have driven along West University Avenue. The complex, it's made up of 2 buildings. You've got the church, which you see up here in the left-hand corner, built in 1961. And then you've got the campus center, which is the 1-story building adjacent to the church, built in 1971. And here are some interior shots of the church up on the top, these top two pictures, and then interior shots of the campus center on the bottom two slides. So again, the address 1826 West University Avenue. This is an example of Florida regional mid-century architectural trends, and it represents the works of master architects and possesses high artistic value. The church was built in 1961. The complex as a whole consists of two contributing buildings, adjacent landscaped areas, and gardens. The church was designed in 1960 by a master architect named Albert Wynn Howell and features a prominent double-pitched A-frame roof. And the one-story mid-century modern in character and style University Lutheran Center was designed in 1970 by Moore, May, and Harrington Architects Incorporated, one of Gainesville's oldest architecture firms, and it relates to the original church. Let's see, hold on here. Yeah, so staff recommends that the Historic Preservation Board support the nomination of this property to the National Register of Historic Places. In addition, the board may provide official comments to the Florida Bureau of Historic Preservation as to whether or not this property meets eligibility criteria for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. That's the presentation. Your backup has a lot more pictures taken by the applicants. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. I don't know if anybody's on the line or there in person to discuss this further.
Nobody here in person.
Nobody on the line.
Let's vote.
Let's vote.
Okay, I move to support a nomination of University Evangelical Lutheran Church to the National Register.
Second, Nicole Nesberg.
All right, thank you. So roll call vote. Danielle Massey.
Aye.
Elizabeth Hausauer.
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg.
Aye.
Elizabeth Hawk.
Aye.
Michael Hill.
Aye.
Bill Warner.
Aye.
Michelle Hazen.
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Let's go straight to a vote on the next one.
So the next item is information item B, which is the National Register nomination, Old Mount Carmel Baptist Church, located at 429 Northwest 4th Street, Pleasant Hill Baptist Church and Mount Carmel Baptist Church owners. In just a moment. Okay, so This is the National Register nomination of the Old Mount Carmel Baptist Church at 429 Northwest 4th Street. Again, this is the process involving gaining support of the Gainesville Historic Preservation Board. It would go to Tallahassee to the Florida National Register Review Board on February 4th. And after that, it would go to the keeper of the National Register in Washington, D.C. with a date to be determined. This property, we've seen some shots of it already as it lies just to the west of the duplexes that were proposed on the Elliott Larkin property. This property is zoned urban 6. And this is being nominated based on 3 different criteria. Criteria A, concerning social history. The church was an important part of the civil rights movement, which helped to end legal segregation of American society. The church was constructed in 1944, and during the 50s and early 60s, the building served as one of the spiritual and social centers for the Gainesville African American community. During the 60s, the church also became a center of the civil rights movement in Gainesville, where nonviolent activities throughout Alachua County and Florida were planned. Second criteria is based on a person, the Reverend Thomas A. Wright, who was one of the leaders of the civil rights movement in Gainesville. He born 1920, died in 2014. He was an advocate for integration of education and social justice and served at the church from 1962 until 1984. In the early 60s, he was president of the Alachua County chapter of the NAACP and led the organization's fight for desegregation of the Alachua County school system. They also held political meetings and organizational meetings concerning sit-ins and marches that took place in Gainesville. He also ran for Gainesville City Commission. I guess the first African American to do that, to run for the City Commission since Reconstruction at that time. And then finally, criterion C would be the architecture. The significance of the building relates primarily to its style and method of construction. The church is an example of several architectural trends that were evident for spiritual buildings starting from the late 19th century until the Great Depression. It's a late Gothic revival style. And also the interior space has 2 levels, an assembly room on the ground level and a nave and sanctuary on the second level, which is a building tradition that's prevalent in the early churches constructed and owned by African Americans. I don't know what happened. Let's see. So here's some pictures showing the front of the, well, showing the structure from all sides. And here are some interior interior shots of the building. You see it does need some interior work. So the property description, 429 Northwest 4th Street. It's a 2.5-story red brick church on an important intersection within the Pleasant Street Historic District. built in 1944 during a time of scarcity of building materials. So it's an excellent example of a mix of popular architectural styles and traditional religious forms. The exterior design elements are characteristic of the late Gothic Revival style. It includes a cross-gabled roof, parapeted walls, Flemish bond, red brick construction, brick pilaster strips, pointed arch windows with colored glass panes, and precast concrete surrounds for the doors and windows, and a 2-level interior space. So with that, staff recommends that the Preservation Board support the nomination of this property to the National Register of Historic Places. And in addition, the board may provide official comments to the Florida Bureau of Historic Preservation as to whether or not this property meets eligibility criteria for listing in the National Register of Historic Places.
I move to support the nomination of Old Mount Carmel Baptist Church to the National Register of Historic Places.
I will second that motion.
Back in your court, Jason.
That was Michael Hill.
Yeah, thank you. So roll call. Danielle Massey,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hausauer,
Aye.
Nicole Nesberg,
Aye.
Elizabeth Hawk,
Aye.
Michael Hill, Bill Warner,
Aye.
Michelle Hazen,
Aye.
Jay Reeves.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I got a few really quick items.
Sure, go for it.
Thank you. So I wanted to see if the board would be interested or able to schedule a workshop. We'll work with you on your schedules. Probably just do it by Zoom. I think we probably need to have a follow-up from the joint meeting you had with the City Commission to discuss some of the items and referrals that came out of that. Obviously, it's 8:40 tonight. Most of your recent board meetings have been sort of packed with items, so a separate workshop, maybe something that we can have some more focused discussion. So that's one thing. I just wanted to put that out there. Second thing is the Historic Preservation Planner is posted on the city's website. It's actually a Historic Preservation Officer, so it has a nice ring to it. It is a higher level planning position, so the salary range starts at $68,000. So that's for anyone who's interested out there who's looking for a preservation job. I did want to point out one of the things I think that came out of the joint meeting was, yes, we want to fund this, and so naive department director thought that money would rain down from the heavens to fund. No, it actually comes from my budget. So I've had to freeze a couple of other positions, but I'm excited about getting this one out there, and I think it'll be a really good step in the right direction for preservation in general, but for the department and the program. And then the third thing I wanted to mention is I'd like to try to schedule it, depending on what the February's agenda looks like, maybe February or March. I'd like to bring the city attorney to do a training for the board members who haven't had that opportunity yet. The city attorney comes, he gives a really great presentation about quasi-judicial proceedings, which this board is a quasi-judicial board. Talks about public records, sunshine, all those good things that are good to be refreshers. I've heard his presentation countless times, and I usually pick up one or two things from it every time. So those are the three things. The city manager has been doing a tour of the boards and coming to some of the boards and talking about the city's strategic plan. And so I think he's interested in coming maybe to the February meeting, so we'll also agenda him to give his spiel about the strategic plan. So that was it. I just wanted to bring that before we adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Good work.
The only thing I would say about that, I think it's wonderful, and I'd love to hear the attorney speak, because I'm one of those new people that doesn't know a lot of these things. But our meetings this is a short one. They've been running 5.5 hours, and a lot of it is because we don't have a planner, and so we're doing things that could best be handled by if we had a full-time person, but to add something like that on top of a 5-hour agenda, it's just too exhausting. So I don't know if maybe the attorney should be a breakout meeting as well. I mean, so that people who have already heard the spiel don't need to be there. I said maybe the attorney, listening to the attorney or having that should be also be like a workshop or a breakout meeting for those of us who've not had that information before, as opposed to having it be part of the actual meeting. I don't know how everybody else thinks, but I can't, nothing goes in my head after 5 hours. It's done.
I think that's fine. There's no, we can schedule the attorney at a workshop, and that'll probably be preferable to him too, because it'll be during the day. Is usually when we try to schedule those, so.
Okay, it's all good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, nothing else, we're adjourned.